Hi there, a quick video on a very common SRE interview question that is asked in the Linux interview rounds. That is what happens when you type ls-l in a shell environment. We're just going to go over steps of what happens there. So the moment you type ls-l, it's received by the shell. It could be any shell. In this case, I'm using bash. The first thing that happens is the tokenization. The shell tokenizes the input, and then it breaks into the following two commands, ls and its argument -l. The second step that takes place is the shell processing. So the command lookup is done by the shell to determine if ls is a built-in shell command, is it an alias or is it an external executable. In our case, ls is an external executable typically located in bin. Once that is determined, the path lookup takes place. That means the shell searches the directories listed in the path environment variable to find the ls executive. Once it figures out where the executable is, then the process creation takes place. That is, the shell is gonna create a new process by using fork system call. This duplicates the shell process, creating a child process. And then in the child process, the shell replaces its program with ls program using the exec family of calls. This loads ls executable into the memory, replacing the shell process. Once that is done, then the execution takes place. So the argument passing is done such that the ls program starts executing, and it passes the command line arguments. The -l option indicates that it should use a long format for listing the files. Then comes the system calls. So directory reading. When you do an ls, it makes system calls to read the contents of the current directory or the specified directory. It uses system calls such as open directory, read a directory, and close directory to access the directory entries. Now, file information for each directory is also needed because we're using a long format. So the stat system call is used, which in turn returns a structure containing the file metadata. Post that, it's just a question of formatting the output. So the ls program formats the output in a long format. It's going to give you file types, the number of links, the owners and the groups, the size of the file, the timestamp, and its name. And lastly, it's going to use write system call to format the output, the shell that manages the terminal, and then it's going to use write system call to display the output on the screen. Once all this is done, we would be seeing process termination using the exit system call. That's going to terminate the shell, like that's going to be called the shell process, which is the parent. It's going to wait for ls to finish and then returns to the prompt, ready for the next command. Now, this was just an overview. If we want, we could even see it with the strace command. Now, strace is okay running for pretty small commands like this, but be very careful while running strace in production. So I'm just gonna show this output to you. I'm just gonna number this. Let's go to the first line. So whatever we talked about, we could even see all that stuff that ls command is doing using this strace output here. So the fork or clone indicates creation of the new process, and when I said it's executing, so you can simply look for something called exec, and you could see that we do have an exec system call here. And then when it comes to reading the directory, we could search for something called open. So we have open at as well, a bunch of open calls actually. So that happens as well. We could even check for getdents. Yep, getdents 64, that's there as well. It's gonna this is another system call for reading the directory. Now this output may differ depending on what flavor of Linux you're using, but the uh, method more or less remains the same. If you want to see what's happening, you can use strace. And then finally, for the file information, you can check for stat system calls. So there should be a bunch of stat system calls as well, which indicates gathering of the files metadata. And then for writing the output to the terminal, there should be a bunch of write command, like write syscalls as well. And lastly, for the process termination, you could simply look for the exit. Yes, the last system call would be exit. That's gonna indicate the process is exiting. So yeah, fun little question. There's a lot of scope to go into a lot of Linux kernel internals on this.